Telltale Guys, Drugs and Religion.
What's your ETA? We'll be there in 2 minutes. Come on, we have lives to save here.
Yes, back again, the Incredible Tale Animals. I'm Josh, and with me is Zane. We're back with another episode of Telltale Guys. I hope y'all are doing well. Zane, looks like you're doing okay.
Yeah, I think we talked about it last week, but I'm on baby watch right now. Basically, we're past the due date. Mama and baby are healthy. Had an ultrasound, but baby is quite comfy where she is apparently. So we're just like getting all anticipated and excited, and nothing's happening. And it's like I feel like we're just going to be really surprised, and all of a sudden we're going to lose sleep, and I'm going to look more haggard than I already look right now. So.
If I was the baby, I wouldn't be in any rush to come out either in this crazy world. Stay in there and bake a little longer, That's
She's probably hearing all the stuff that we're talking about, hearing all our crazy animals barking the whole time. She's like, it's loud out there. I'm comfy in here.
That's true. Yeah. Before we get started, we should remind our listeners to follow us on our socials at Telltale Guys, and also, if you listen to us on Spotify and any other podcast area, make sure to give us a like. Yeah, iTunes, YouTube. Make sure you like us and share us with people. And if you don't like us, someone else might. Yeah, that's what I always say. But Zane, what are we talking about today? What's that?
Oh, I was just saying, post some comments too and all that. Yeah.
Well, comment too if you like.
How are you, by the way?
How high am I?
How are you?
Oh, okay. I was getting ahead of myself. As you can see, I am now in the new studio. It's a little bit echoey, maybe. Hopefully, it's not too bad for the episode. But I just had to get out of that cramped little 3x3 area I was stuck in. So the new office, you can see the background blue, got that going. But I haven't had it quite set up with all my cool looking bobs and ends to make it more soundproof and everything like that. I did bring Scully over with. So
Scully, Miss Scullyton. Good to see you.
Yeah. So, here hanging out, chilling, waiting for this stuff to go down. Cool. Much like
the paint colors look good. I'm glad the renovations are done.
Yeah, and a new chair. Got a new chair. I've seen it.
Oh yeah, it's like a nice video game chair.
Yes, it is, or a race car chair.
Yeah, either or.
Yeah, the video games.
Let's race right into our topic, if we will. Does that work for you?
Yeah. Not our best transition, but it'll work.
It's been a couple weeks since Thanksgiving, so we're kind of jumping on each other. That's okay.
We're a little off.
Yeah, we usually are. But we'll race right into kind of a controversial episode this week. And the last episode we had was kind of in the religious quasi realm where we talked about flood myths, and we're kind of like going with the same theme. We'll jump around, but this kind of inspired me because I'm reading a book that's all about this, and also
what book are you reading, by the way, that's inspiring this episode?
Well, I actually have it right here. It's quite interesting. So there's a big library label on it, but it's called the Immortality Key.
Ooh.
And what this topic focuses on.
Who's that by?
Oh, sorry. It is by. Oh goodness, I can't even. The library.
It's by the library.
So Brian Muraresku.
Okay.
So
that's a thick book. Good Lord.
It is. I know. I had it an audiobook, but I was checking that out from the library too. And it's extremely popular. I have like a 2-month wait or something more, and it might be extended. But anyways, the topic that we're going to explore, which is kind of like religious realm, but it's about the idea that maybe our modern and ancient religions were really inspired, impacted by the use of drugs or kind of psychedelics that were used in religious rites like communion. So I'm kind of inspired. One thing this book talks a lot about is the Christian, the Last Supper, Jesus Christ, the Last Supper. Also in Judaism, there is the Passover, but specifically for the Last Supper. I mean, I think most people know about this, but this was a significant event where Jesus Christ gathered with the 12 disciples to share a final meal before his arrest and crucifixion. And during this meal, he instituted the practice of communion by breaking bread and sharing and blessing wine, symbolizing his body and blood giving up for humanity's salvation. And so that kind of, was this wine and bread? Was there a spiritual power there? Or was there more kind of a natural thing that helps, followers kind of tune in to a different plane of existence? So going to
That's how I
explore
remember it.
what's that?
From church, the communion and all that back in
Well, when you had it, was something happening when you were eating and drinking it?
No, I just remember we used to have. You grew up Catholic, I did not, but we had different, like the little disc wafers, the for the bread. I like those. They taste like paper, but those were the best ones. And then we went to several different churches, and then we had ones that were more like bread crumbs, like actual bread. Those are okay, but I like the disc wafers the best. That's the best body of Christ, I guess.
Instead of just like regular bread, I think some other churches have like that way, but it kind of melts in your mouth. It's kind of a nice, pleasant thing. But here, like kind of going into it, speaking of the Last Supper, right here we have the famous Leonardo da Vinci painting of the Last Supper, and this is where they are taking part in this rite, this communal offering with. But back then, of course, it was like wine and like chunks of bread,
And that was actually a Passover dinner, right? So
yeah. So this was when they were all still Jewish and all that. The 12 apostles and Jesus. But throughout history, food and drink like this, they were used to unify communities and religious sects, and it kind of symbolized the connection to the divine. For instance, here in Christianity, bread and wine represented the literal body and blood of Christ. And here we get a little view here. Here's what Josh is talking about. If you're not familiar, this little kind of wafer. I believe it is just in Catholicism, maybe in other more traditional Christian churches where they believe that the wafer is actually the body of Christ, while the wine is the blood of Christ. And you take part in it and you are saved from your sins.
Yeah, my church didn't do it that way. They were just like, it represents. I'm sure that's what a lot of people's too. If you weren't Catholic, it represents that, but doesn't turn into it. Can you imagine though? It's kind of a sidetrack. Like, what if there was a restaurant, maybe a deli, that specialized in using these kind of wafer things as a sandwich bread, but maybe a little bigger?
I think the problem is if you're going to have, some condiments or some moist meat. Oh, that doesn't sound great. It's just going to make it dissolve though. So it's going to turn into kind of a mushy sandwich.
Yeah, maybe. But I thought a good name for it might be like the Holy Crust or something like that. I don't know. Maybe that's too sacrilegious.
It's a little bit. Okay. But what do you think about it? Like these type of, these wafers that are used in these Christian rites, like you don't see them anywhere else. So they got a market on these particular types of foods.
They're almost like flavorless little mini tortillas.
Yeah. Tortillas sound good too right now. Anyways, and so we talked about earlier, Judaism was similar. Wine is central to the Sabbath and passive rituals. It symbolizes for Judaism joy, remembrance, and God's blessings on the Jewish people. Even though they still do experience a lot of terrible things, they experience a lot of terrible atrocities throughout their history, but there are a lot of blessings as well that they like to celebrate during the Sabbath.
Well, whose bread is this? That one looks delicious. What is?
So that is a traditional Passover bread. I don't know offhand what it is. But yeah,
Okay.
so I think
Challah bread.
that might be it. I think that's correct. But I think those meals are actually they look. I haven't been to one, but they look pretty delicious. I know that's not exactly the whole point of the meal, but from what I've seen of Passover pictures, the whole meal looks pretty fantastic.
I've been to 'cause Evelyn. She's
Oh,
Jewish
right.
now, so I've been to these. I don't remember the bread though, but I mean, yeah, maybe it's just we're recording so close and I'm getting hungry, so everything looks delicious.
We're talking about deli. We're talking about bread,
Yeah.
and so I mean, food is very important for our communities, and it kind of became this perfect vehicle to represent uh, like a connection with the divine and interaction. It was just like a natural way for our religions throughout history to kind of connect with the divine from their followers. So let's kind of go into this, kind of controversial idea that, there are psychoactive substances that were used in religious rites way back when these religions were founded. And it's controversial because it kind of takes away the spiritual aspect of it. And I'm Catholic, so I'm very interested in this topic, but I'm also like, I don't know how that make me feel if they had like definitive proof, like, oh, there's no spiritual part to it. It's just like people started their religions by, tripping on food or drink, and all of a sudden, like, they can see visions, and that is how religion started.
Well,
But
why not? You can have both. Maybe these
yeah,
things help you connect to the spiritual, and that's just the side effect is you get really high. But,
right. Well, that's why I think, and it sounds like there's definitely a good amount of elements of truth to this, that a lot of these followers for whatever religions that we're going to go into, that's why they did it, because they felt it was a way for them to transport to the divine and experience it. So, psychoactive substances and religious experiences. The idea that psychoactive substances might enhance spiritual practices is rooted in their ability, like we said, to alter perception and consciousness. Many religions emphasize transcendence and substances that enable altered states that can facilitate these experiences. Historically, fermenting and brewing, don't really talk about the Egyptians too much in this episode, but many ancient civilizations, including Egypt, they were capable of kind of fermenting and making some interesting brews. And they also infused herbs into drinks, which might have inadvertently created mixtures capable of inducing mystical visions, which were then integrated into religious rituals.
so they're making alcohol in this picture. Is that what's going on with the
Yeah, I believe so.
Egyptians?
I couldn't really find out what exactly they were making, but there was like a pictograph, I guess that's the word.
Hieroglyphic.
Hieroglyphic, yeah, you're right. But they were making some sort of brew here with the fermentation process. I'm trying to remember in ancient Egypt, like, what they can make over there, what was available to them, plant wise and all that, herb wise. I mean, what's that, dates?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe there's some fermentation process with that. But civilizations around the world, back when they were thousands of years ago, up to like 12,000 years ago, have been fermenting and messing around, whether by mistake or not. And our next kind of segue into that is from an anthropological standpoint. Early humans likely discovered psychoactive substances by accident. So we're going to play this funny little video. All right, Zane here, editing myself because YouTube didn't like the video that I wanted to incorporate in this wonderful episode. So you're going to get a wonderful narration of this video that will only add to the trippiness. New Jersey, 10,000 BC, there is a monkey and he throws his poop on the ground. Oh, what's going on with this poop? Oh, there's a bird. Oh, there's mushrooms and growing out of the poop, and now the ape is going to eat the mushroom. Oh God, I'm seeing everything. The bird is talking! Ah! Everything's melting. A lizard thing says, think, think, think. Now the ape is building houses, building tools. His brain says, invent language. Now we're talking to all sorts of monkeys, and now the monkeys are overpopulating and getting big. Lots of population, creating war, weapons, and buildings. Now we've created a TV with commercials and spring break videos.
Now robots are starting to think. Spam bot. Now they're enslaving the world. Tripod robots. Oh my god, the monkeys have killed themselves. Oh, now the robot's eating its own mushroom and the world has exploded back into a mushroom, all within the circle of life.
Well, that was a trip through history, Zane.
Yeah, I know. Really true. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope everyone listening to that was probably very confused.
Yeah, that was there's a lot going on in there. So
right. It's really quick. If you want,
ancient,
you want to talk about it?
Yeah, ancient prehistoric human found a mushroom and ate it, and then tripped balls, and then figured out how to make stuff from it. I guess inspiration. Although I don't know, that seems like not with personal experiencing, but from other people who have taken drugs. That doesn't seem to be the reaction one has after taking drugs. As you get inspired to make stuff.
Well, yeah, if you take too much, like you're turning a lethargic mess. But maybe you take a little microdosing or something like that. Maybe you get inspired. You can be more creative, more inventive, maybe. But I'm sure there was. I mean, yeah, there's a few of these ancient monkeys, ancient humans that took these shrooms by accident or not, and some probably died, which is unfortunate for them.
Yes.
Some got poisoned, some experienced some crazy hallucination, and some found shrooms that were good for eating as like a regular side dish.
But grill them up.
It's an interesting idea. We'll talk about it later, but how I feel about all this, and I'm sure I definitely want to hear from you on that. But that's just a quick kind of comedic, trippy way of seeing how maybe human civilization evolved. And this video is like, oh, it happened because apes were tripping on something. So, I mean, over time, ancient humans, they would have noticed that certain plants or fungi, produced these euphoric or visionary effects. And, possibly they interpreted them as, gifts or just visions from the divine, or it helped them think of this idea of the divine, of entities beyond ourselves, some entities that are more powerful. And so these discoveries may have led to the integration of psychoactive elements into rituals, forming the foundation of early religious practices. So we're going to kind of take a dive into a few ancient civilizations and religions and see how this kind of this possible story and theory was started because of them. So the first one is the Eleusinian mysteries in ancient Greece. I'm going to be butchering a lot of things like we usually do. So these mysteries were secretive religious rites, secretive society held in honor of Demeter and Persephone, central spiritual figures in Greek mythology. And participants consumed a drink called the koukion. Here it is. Here are some other pictures too, where the liquid is kind of like almost like a pink grape juice in color. And this concoction was believed to induce transformative visions. Modern researchers suggest the koukion may have contained ergot. Have you ever heard of ergot?
Yes, ergot poisoning is blamed for some mass hysteria events in the Middle Ages and stuff, right?
Right. Was it St. Elmo's fire?
No,
not St. Elmo.
Different.
Was that different? Was that something else?
Yeah, that's like a phenomenon when you ships are going at night and it makes electricity on top of it. Or it's also that song from the 80s.
St. Anthony's
or the
fire.
Movie.
So no, I'm thinking of St. Anthony's fire. I know what you're talking about though. Yeah. But this was effective long-term ergot poisoning that occurred, I think, at a monk monastery, and it just got really bad. But they were brewing beer or using wheat, and basically ergot is a fungus, and it can either really poison you, or it can have kind of LSD psychoactive properties, because I believe breaking down ergot, those properties are used to make LSD. So that's interesting concept if you want to make those connections.
You know what also is ergot would be if an actor wins the Emmy, the Razzie, the Grammy, the Oscar, and the Tony.
Is that an official name, or you?
No, I just made that up because they do. If they win the good ones, it's called like what is it, EGOT. But
Is
if
it?
you
Oh,
throw the Razzie in there, you get the ergot.
okay, yeah. I didn't know if you win them all, you get like it's called the EGOT. I haven't really paid attention to the award ceremony in so long. I used to. I used to watch the Oscars and maybe the Emmys and MTV Movie Awards, but I think I just got sick of everyone being so into themselves, and I was like, I'm done.
It is quite the fart sniffing event. It isn't very enjoyable.
So I'm done. And especially it just got. I think it's always been political, but then it just got extremely charged. So, if true, if this ergot was used, this might explain the profound spiritual experiences reported by initiates, which often involve, like we've talked about, visions of an afterlife or unity with the divine. And these rites influenced many ancient thinkers, including Plato, whose philosophy carried themes of transcendence and the soul's immortality. So let's go back to actually Christianity. We touched about them a bit. We kind of mentioned the Eucharist or communion. It symbolizes the consumption of bread and wine, how it's turned into literal bread or little body and blood of Christ. And like I mentioned, that author, Brian Rasko, he really goes into this and their immortality. I highly recommend this book if you're interested in that subject. And he really has like this thesis that ancient Christian communities, might have had psychoactive substances in their sacred meals. Archaeological evidence, including residue analysis on ancient chalices or holy grails.
Dr. Jones.
Dr. Jones. Hints at the inclusion of herbal infusions or psychoactive mixtures in these rituals. And this raises the provocative idea, and I've talked about this before, maybe spiritual ecstasy wasn't exactly spiritual, but maybe it was more from getting a little high. And, it's kind of hard for a lot of people, including myself, to comprehend. But I guess, like you said, can it be both?
Yeah, maybe.
Next up, Mesoamerican, indigenous.
Okay.
Tradition. In Mesoamerican cultures, psychedelic substances like psilocybin mushrooms were central to religious ceremonies. The Aztecs referred to these mushrooms as, tinachal, or flesh of the gods.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Thank you. This indicating their spiritual significance. And participants consume these substances to communicate with deities, receive guidance, or just get to these visionary states. There's also the peyote, a psychoactive practice, which was used in rituals to strengthen communal bonds and gain insight into the spiritual realm. Next up is Soma in Hinduism. The Rig Veda, an ancient Hindu text, describes Soma. And we had a little Hindu-ish drawing here, someone drinking Soma. This was a divine drink consumed by gods and humans alike to achieve spiritual ecstasy and insight.
I see their third eye is open. They must have listened to our pineal gland episode.
Yeah. I was going to touch on this, how it's kind of similar. There's an idea that maybe people, they didn't know exactly about the pineal gland, but maybe now, with modern neo-spiritual cults, whatever you want to call them, they're trying to take these substances because it does open up your pineal gland or third eye. That's another interesting episode, which is similar. So please go back and check that one out.
Yeah.
So this one, the scholars have debated its composition for centuries, but they propose mostly like, I don't know if you know what this is, Josh, ephedra. Does that sound familiar to you?
How do you spell it?
ephedra.
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 Okay. Yeah, I've heard of ephedra. It's a modern drug, right? They use it for. Is that an exercise thing, or?
I don't know.
Or it helps increase your metabolism or something. I don't even think of a different thing. But I've heard of ephedra. Yes, not ephedra, but
Yeah, thank you. Reading, whatever.
You read
Probably
books.
also heard of like cannabis, and we talked about it, like psychoactive mushrooms. So they think those ingredients were included in soma. So, but regardless of these supposed ingredients, soma symbolized the transformative power of substances that bridge human and divine realms, highlighting how ancient religions often viewed psychoactive experiences as sacred. And the kind of a cool connection and in the immortality key is touched upon too. So Aldous Huxley, who is famous for the book Brave New World, and that's a futuristic dystopian society that what they do to kind of cope with existence is they consume a drug called soma that basically it's like a pill basically, and it puts them in this constant state of a peaceful stupor and happiness. And it's like there's nothing wrong with the world because they're always high, basically. And interesting enough about Huxley, later in his life, he became a big proponent of the use of psychedelics to kind of improve your life or kind of make yourself more creative.
Oh, real point. I looked up ephedrine really quick just to jog my memory. It's a plant, but they use it, drugs from it. It's a stimulant, so it makes your nervous system soup up, and athletes like to take it to improve their endurance and stuff. That's why it's banned, I think, for use and stuff like that. And I think it used to be a workout supplement or something like that, but it was like banned. So,
okay. Well,
sorry, I derailed your.
No, that's fine. I'm glad. Kind of the wrapping up the last kind of like area, African and Amazonian traditions. So in the Amazon, shamans use ayuca, and this was a brew.
Ayahuasca?
Ayahuasca, thank you. Yeah, I was like, I could do a better job of like typing out how these sound, but whatever.
I know my drugs, Zane.
That kind of reminds me, though. You said you never had experience, but you had one by accident. Maybe you took too many pain pills when you were surgery.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it on this podcast before, but
you did.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I did get a little high off that stuff. It wasn't fun. I can talk about that more later if you want.
Sure. But it's kind of, you had an experience that was related to drugs. But how do you say it again?
Ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca. That's it. So this is a brew that contains DMT, which we talk about in the pineal gland episode. And apparently this drug connects you with spiritual realms, and it can heal emotional and physical ailments. But also similarly, the Bwiti religion in Africa, they incorporate iboga into its rituals to induce visionary states and to get in touch with the spiritual gods. These practices emphasize the therapeutical and communal aspects of psychoactive substances, framing as a tool for actual healing. Is kind of the focus besides just getting in touch with God or anything like that. So they use similar DMT containing brews.
I know ayahuasca is all the rage right now with people because of Joe Rogan and Graham Hancock is a big thing with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of what we're going to go into next is kind of like the new age spiritualism that kind of talks about this. So in recent years, now even, there has been a resurgence of interest in psychedelics within spiritual or like therapeutic context. Movements like the Santo Daime Church, I'm probably saying that wrong too, but this is a Brazilian church that integrates ayahuasca into their religious ceremonies, blending traditional Christian elements with indigenous practices. This arrival aligns with modern research into psychedelics as tools for treating mental health issues, offering a bridge between ancient wisdom and contemporary science. So, I mean, this is one thing I don't know if you've heard about this much at all since you were in the Marines, but there is kind of like Joe Rogan, those type of people, there is a renewed interest in taking certain psychedelics for veterans who have PTSD. I've heard veterans. bath salts are not good. They're going to do that. That'll make their PTSD worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you've heard about this, or if you know anyone from the Marines who are doing this just to kind of help with their mental health or maybe physical health, go into places like Mexico where this is kind of allowed. The United States doesn't allow it, where you can have like controlled sessions, medically supervised, where you can take certain drugs like these. Like, I think MDMA is kind of the big one for this. Have you heard anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of that being used, and they have beneficial results with people who are having massive problems, like that. It is something that I think that not to tread lightly as like a recreational thing, and especially I know with ayahuasca is because it has, even though it's a drug, maybe we'll get into this later. It does connect you spiritually to, I guess, a realm that can answer a lot of your questions and help you work through things. So, I mean, I think there's a benefit to it. I don't think I would want to take it just because, one, I don't have those kind of problems. And two, yeah, I don't think that's something I really want to mess with, because the side effects I think are pretty heavy, anyways, because you like vomit for a long time and you're out of it for like 8 hours or something. So you got to make sure someone's there with you. And plus you have to go to the Amazon. Those mosquitoes are pretty big. So I don't know.
You would have to be roughing it if you want to really do that. If you have to be extremely dedicated, because I mean, that's true too. I mean, you're out of it if you do these type of things. Like, it's not like it's like, oh, having a couple of drinks and I can go back and do whatever. Like, no, it's
not like you had 5 or 6, 7, 8 drinks and said, I'm just going to drive back home.
No,
it's not like that at all.
You'll be driving in your race car seat like Josh's into the freaking universe. So you're out for like, I would just say like a day or maybe more. I don't know. But yeah, I have heard of that where you get sick, you're purging yourself basically, and it's poisoning you, but it's also creating a supposed crazy effect that you're seeing. So I mean, that's kind of a big thing that's going on right now in kind of neo spiritual movements. Psilocybin, MDMA, they're being studied for potential to treat depression, PTSD, and addiction, like I said. And many people report profound spiritual experiences that have helped. But like, I agree. I don't know if it should be legalized all across the board. It'll be interesting to see with the new administration coming in, what will happen with all that. Obviously, in general, no matter the administration, the past several years, drug recreation has been not as strict, especially in blue states. But
I'm much more libertarian on my thoughts on that. Like, I think it should be legalized. I wouldn't necessarily myself want to do it, but if an adult wants to do it, go ahead. But then at the same time, if you get strung out on crack, it's not my responsibility to help you out through it. That's on you. You made that decision. But that's just where I stand on it. Maybe a little controversial, but whatever.
Maybe meeting in a good middle you can have these extreme drugs legalized, but they have to be in controlled settings. Because obviously you see in some of our states where everything's legal and people are doing it in the streets and then just turning into hobos, and the streets are turning into crap, literally. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's being tried and we're seeing the effects of it.
Those darn hobos with their sacks on the end of sticks and hopping trains. No, not in Zane's America.
No. I mean, that's hard. Like, I kind of agree with you. Like, let people live, but also you're going to be impacted one way or another. But
well, I would say if you're cracked out in front of my house, then I have the right to forcibly remove you. So,
yeah, you're on.
I'm not just let you camp out and start taking dumps all over the yard. That's what my dogs do. So
right. Let us not to be dogs. No. But yeah, that's kind of my rundown of this interesting theory. Would it I don't think you're exactly as religious as I am. But would it really bother? Let's say there was clear evidence that came out of nowhere and be like, hey, um, spiritual, that whole, there wasn't like some spiritual event that happened with, let's say, Jesus Christ. It was like they were drinking drugged out wine and it helped them see something. And that's how Christianity really got its foothold.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as like religions go and stuff like that, them being influenced by psychedelics and things like that is interesting. I think, yeah, perhaps that played a role in it, and especially in like early churches and stuff like that. I don't necessarily think that would negate everyone's spirituality with whatever religion they prescribe to. Maybe that's kind of like a fence-sitting position, but I guess I'm more agnostic, and it's like just because this happened doesn't mean that you can't also have the second part of it. So, yeah, maybe you're tripping out on what was it, Soma or something like that, and
For Hinduism, yeah.
yeah, and you're speaking to Vishnu or something like that. Well, maybe that's how you actually connect to the other world, the gods or whatever, and it just helps you. It's not necessary. You can't just write it off like, oh, it's just a hallucination because you're high. Maybe it's an actual event connecting you to the spiritual world.
Mhm.
What about you? What do you think? Would that rock your faith to the point of not wanting to practice anymore, or do you think they could both live, hand in hand?
I think they can both live hand in hand. Like it wouldn't surprise me, and it seems like there is a fair amount of evidence for these type of things happening thousands of years ago for various religions. So I don't think it would rock me. I think the idea of what I believe in is important. But I don't know. Like, I also, it's just hard for me to really think that, especially on the Christian level. I mean, that just took over the world basically almost instantaneously. So I feel like there has to be something else that happened there besides just drugs and wine and bread.
Sure.
That's kind of my thought on it. I don't know if that seems naive, but I mean, Islam has done that too, but it's something like, I mean, was just crazy about Christ's teachings is that all of a sudden it overtook the largest empire in the world too. Like it took hundreds of years or so, but Roman Empire eventually turned Christian, which was crazy, and they were pagan. So, but I don't know. That's kind of my thought on it. It seems like it was too crazy an event that happened to just be about drugs.
Sure. And I know in like Christianity anyways, faith in like miracles and stuff like that, it plays a big role in events. I don't know so much other religions have things like miracles. I think they do, but they call it something else, and they attribute it to the gods or God or whatever. And I think those exist outside of the realm of being high. So it's like if you prescribe faith to events like that, then I think you can marry these two things. Psychedelics in your what religion was what was causing these visions, but also things actually happen that are considered miracles or events that God or your God or gods or whatever played a hand in some type of an event. I think they can live side by side, especially I think more so with psychedelics. I think maybe it's more akin to peeling back the layers of reality and allowing you to step into another dimension where our spirituality lives as humans. I think that's really more what it's about. Like, that being said, I'm not going to do it myself just because I don't like getting tripped out. It's just it pulls you out of your body. It's not
Right.
not a thing that is pleasant for me necessarily. And not that I took drugs, but like we alluded to earlier with I was on painkillers for an operation I had. I had my gallbladder removed, and they had me on hydrocodone, which I don't think is necessarily considered something that's like heavy. It's not like Oxycontin or something like that. It's like a step below it, but still it's more than Motrin. So I had that, and I had an out of body experience with that. And I think maybe I didn't mention this part, but another time I'm still on it, but I had like visions and stuff like that of like a demon in like downtown Atlanta. Like I was visiting the Brave Stadium. Yeah, I don't think I told this.
No, you didn't.
It
Oh,
was
wow.
more of a vision, but it was still, it felt very like undream-like to me. You know, like the difference between a dream and, you know, whatever, like I guess a drug-induced dream or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, so like the vision I had was like I was down at Brave Stadium or, you know, wherever they play now. I don't know, or back when I had this,
Yeah,
and I
Atlanta,
was
Turner Field.
Turner Field, and like I was there, and there's people all, you know, watching the game or whatever, and then this giant demon just comes out from the ground and then starts like going ham on all the people, and like everyone's running trying to get away from it. Like it was freaky. Like, and like I said, it wasn't so much a dream, you know, but it was like induced by these painkillers. So it's like, what is that? Was I kind of like pulling from the, you know, underlying mechanics of, you know, these realms or whatever to see a vision of a potential future? I don't know. But it was weird. I didn't like it. What about you? Ever get any, you know, high off medications or, you know, other things?
I'll just say I'd rather be rude in reality. So I'll stick to that.
Sure.
So but you know, I've, you know, been to some raves and all that. Anyways, but I what's
The music gets you into it, right? The music brings you to the other realm.
It was just the music. So
What do you think the music helps enhance the experience for people? Not you necessarily, but other people. Does the music, or do you like think other people melt into the music? Like it?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Especially with music you really like, and I think it can really help you get to a good state. That reminds me of, for these controlled, like new age kind of spiritual, you know, places where you can do these drugs, maybe like that Brazil religion, or, you know, medical procedures that people take part, maybe let's say in Mexico. What they do is whatever drug you're taking, it's like a very calming, like Zen, like a spa type setting. And you'll take your drug, you'll have like a doctor or whoever kind of guiding you, being there for you, but they'll give you music. And I think they kind of pick out very calming, maybe like classical music. And so it kind of like gets you calm. And as you start your journey, it's just a calm way to get into it. So I think in general, music, for no matter what, is a very relaxing thing. I don't think they're going to do like death metal or anything like that once you
No.
take, but that's what I've heard.
The machine elves will take you away.
Yeah.
I did have, you know, what also has a similar effect to, I guess, drugs would be lack of sleep will make you hallucinate as well. Now, I've done that as well. I've hallucinated from lack of sleep. Have you had that?
I think we talked about this,
Yeah,
but
maybe.
I'm eager to hear what you say, because I think you had some more things regarding your military training. But
Yeah.
you know, I've only done like 24 hours for, like, you know, doing all night study marathons. But you said you've done it, so I didn't really feel, besides being tired and just kind of not seeing that well. But no, I never experienced anything. But for Marines, you had to really undergo some crazy hours.
So for Marines, I had it twice happen to me, and then another time recently as an adult, and, you know, within this year, something, but it was a little different. I'll explain that too. So like with the in the Marines, and I think I've mentioned it before on the show, but for those of you who haven't heard this before, it's a treat. So this was during boot camp when I was in the Marines. So you're like, you know, crazy stressed, and they're working you pretty hard. So you're up for a long time, and you're just tired all the time. So when you finally get a chance to stop, if you stop moving, then you tend to fall asleep or something like that, if you've been pushing yourself really hard. But at this one point, I was required to stand, you know, watch over the gear while people were off doing something. So they make you put your stuff down, and they assign a person to watch the gear, as like, you know, so nothing happens to it or whatever. It just teaches you this one to watch over stuff when somebody's, so you can't just all leave your stuff and leave, you know. So anyway, so I'm there standing there, and this is later in boot camp. So I'm trying to remember what we had done. I think some long like hikes or something like that. So I'm there and I'm tired, and you have to stand there at attention, kind of like, or at ease, and watching the gear. And I'm looking off into the distance, and I'm watching this like drill instructor yelling at a recruit. So he's just like going off like, I'm like, man, this guy must have really messed up. I'm just standing there. But then it just kind of morphs into it was just the backpacks that people left down. But it looks so real, like it was actually somebody yelling at the thing. And then same time frame, I was standing to watch here, and a little bit later, a few minutes later, so I'm watching, again, just kind of staring off over the stuff, and I see this Marine, and he's doing like a Mexican hat dance around something, and I'm just watching like, what's going on here? But then it turns into a bush. It was a bush I was looking at. So it's just like, it's just so crazy when you're that deprived, how reality can morph into something that's not really there, and you're not on drugs or anything like that. It's just your brain chemicals is just like so out of whack, and you're seeing stuff. But I didn't start a religion.
Like dreaming in a way. It's like dream elements kind of popping into reality, right? What do you say?
Kind of. Well, I guess so, but it's you're fully awake, so you're seeing stuff. It's just like, because I'm standing up. I'm not laying down taking a nap, so I'm really just paying attention to the whatever I have to do. But yeah, it's the weirdest thing to have happen, because then you snap out of it. It's like, oh, okay, I was just hallucinating that, but that was so real. It's so weird. It's odd. Mm-hmm. But then, okay, so the third time this happened, and now I think this has something to do with being able to access, alternate realms or something like that. And this wasn't so much a hallucination. I think it was more so, maybe it has to do with your pineal gland and your third eye being open. Maybe I told this in that episode too, or you tell me if I did. We do so many episodes, I can't remember all the stories I tell. But I'm there. I'm trying to go to sleep at night, right? And I have a bit of insomnia, so I couldn't go to sleep. So I'm just laying there, right? But then all of a sudden, like, you close your eyes, you're trying to go to sleep, but you're not. So you're awake. And you're just like, oh God, I can't get to sleep, whatever. So I'm laying there, and then all of a sudden, like, playing like through my mind's eye, like I'm kind of like rushed into this, like, we'll call it a dimension. But it's like I see all these scenes, and they're like flying past me. It's kind of like almost like a film reel. And It's like each frame of the film reel is like another world you could step into. So it's like zooming past me, and I'm like conscious because I'm laying there, in the bed, trying to go to sleep, but I'm not. So it's like flying past me, and then I'm able to like control it, like slow it down and move the film reel where I want it to go. So eventually I stop it on this one frame, and I'm able to look into this frame, right? So I'm looking into this frame, and you remember the old like Viewmasters, like those 3D like goggle things with that little disc you put in. So like the scene I'm looking at, it kind of has that 3D effect like the Viewmasters had, right? It was kind of like big depth of field. So it's the scene I'm looking at. It's a mountain, but it has this, what I'm looking into, it's almost like this orange haze over it, coming like a 3D hologram, comic book card, it's like, but it's orangey face. And so I'm looking, and on this mountain, there's this like gnomes or something, and they're like hiking up this mountain trail. It's a very like sharp rocky mountain. So they're like walking up the trail, and they all have these black hats, like the gnome hats, but they're all black. Yeah. So the hats are black, and the gnomes are marching up this mountain. And I'm just kind of watching in the scene. I'm like, what? This is weird. Like, and then I kind of get sucked out of it, out of the thing. And the film reels, I see them start moving again. And I try to slow them down to get back in, but I can't. So, and then I lose it. I lose my mind's eye, my access to the, like, it's almost like I get out of the portal, and I'm just still laying in bed. Like I wasn't asleep. I was awake, but I couldn't access. So I almost felt like it was like the lack of sleep triggered like my brain to access, I don't know, the third eye, and I could kind of travel into another realm, fully aware of everything. But that was a freaky thing. So
wow.
Yeah.
Maybe you were
Well, maybe you're glimpsing into the real life, like Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, and we talked about that in our second episode or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, but they were kind of eerie. I wasn't like scared of these things, but they were just kind of like ominous, I guess. They were like with their black hats and walking up this mountain. Like, what are they doing? Where are they
Weird.
going? What is this mountain? And it was very desolate, just I don't know. That was weird. So I don't think I need to do drugs because I kind of
Sounds
experience these
you're
things
attuned
without it.
already. Like maybe
Yeah.
you're one of these gifted people. Like you talked about people who see more paranormal stuff. I mean, it sounds like maybe you can see more interdimensional stuff.
Maybe. I mean, I think I have like some family members that they can kind of like they're more attuned to this, I think, than I am. Like I don't want to be. So like I don't think they want to be either. But I feel if we did want to be more engaged with it, we could be. But there's so much dark stuff in there. Like I don't want to. It doesn't seem like a place I want to live. But with drugs and religion, it seems like a much better place.
It seems like it. I mean, apparently there's enough anecdotes in history and enough people in the past and now who really are big proponents of this, and helps them at the very least come to peace with themselves. That's what I'm kind of hearing a lot. That's like the common thing, because I can't imagine, like, let's say all these different religions around the world are taking these drugs during religious ceremonies. I can't imagine they're seeing the same thing, but maybe with the right concoction, it is like kind of at least helping you as a person mentally and physically in a way. Especially, I think if that is the case, I think I'm a big proponent of people doing it if it can help, if they have mental issues or physical impairments. But I think it's still a science that needs to be studied even more so.
Well, here's a question for you then with drugs and religion. Do you think the drugs came first and then the religion, or the religion came first and the drugs just enhanced the religions?
Oh God, I think it's kind of a mix of both, but I think I do kind of align towards that silly little video. Maybe like we kind of just discovered the drugs, and that maybe led into religion. Not saying there wasn't spiritual events that happened, but that was a big factor. It kind of makes sense to me, thinking logically, that some apes or prehistoric humans are like, "Oh, let me try that," So that makes sense to me. What about you?
Too, I think kind of along those lines is like there's some animals now that will purposely get drunk on things.
Oh yeah, that's right.
There's some elephants, I think, in the Congo that are known for like traversing into this one cave where they like ferment some fruit and they like get drunk off of it and stuff like that. I don't think they start any religions though, but it's interesting that they seek it out. It's like, hey, this makes you feel.
Religion started by elephants would be probably pretty epic. I'm sure they would have like a strong, like powerful religion.
Would it be like in Dumbo? Remember when Dumbo got all tripped out? I don't remember pink elephants.
What was he? Was he eating something? I can't remember.
He got drunk and he was like, but the imagery he was seeing looked more like an acid trip. But this was before acid was invented. So because when did Dumbo come out? 1930, something like that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he was like pink elephants, and they were like dancing around him, and they were like flashing and stuff like that.
That's right.
And, I think it was a little bit more than just alcohol, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, even though you said LSD wasn't technically invented, I mean, I think it was like the 50s or 60s. But if these reports are true, ergot is like broken down is like basically some of the properties of what LSD is. So, maybe Dumbo was taking part of the old Greek drink. What was it? The kiku. I should remember this, but
Kikkoman, the soy sauce.
Now that's gonna get me hungry too and want some Asian food. What was it called? That kukion. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of wraps up this interesting topic. I think it even if you're a very strict religious person, I think it's an interesting topic nonetheless, because it kind of goes back into our history and our culture and how it impacts us now. So any final thoughts on that before we go into our drawing? Is there any of the civilization were more interesting to you that maybe took part in these psychoactive brews?
I think, like I said earlier, like I think both can exist, and you can still keep your religion intact. It doesn't discredit it in any way. I don't feel. Maybe I think the shamanic religions, kind of that kind of stuff with more of like the nature worship and things. I could see that coming first, and then the shamanic stuff following that. Mm-hmm. But I think some of the more like religions based off of deities, maybe not so much, but enhanced by. So I think that's all very interesting topic, and to what extent who knows, But it would be interesting to start my own religion based off of some kind of hard drug, I guess, or Kool-Aid, laced with heroin, maybe. I don't.
Wow. Okay. Right.
I wouldn't do it myself, but the followers can. That's
well. If you had a special liquid brew that you could put in your special Josh ingredient that would help people turn to your religion, what would the drink be?
Oh, let's see. I like Caprinas. How do you say that? The Brazilian drink. It's like it's made with cachaça. It's like a rum and the lime, and because that stuff will get you tore up before you even know it, because it tastes so good. So I think something like that would be a good delivery system, but that has alcohol in it. So maybe that, I don't know. You don't want to get drunk and high, I think, at the same time, right? So
I don't know. It sounds like maybe there's a combination of that for some of these potions back in the day.
But I do like the sweeter drinks, so ciders, maybe some kind of gin drink would be work as well. Or if I go more PG with it, or a Shirley Temple, I'll make it a dirty Shirley Temple with heroin in it.
There you go.
What about you?
I think just a good old fashioned, nice brown ale with some touch of honey, and so that kind of makes it kind of Greek in a way or something.
Okay.
I feel like a good
mead,
beer. Like mead, yeah. Like, but
honey
I
wine.
don't remember if I like mead or not. There is a meadery next to me somewhere, close by to try. But yeah, like a good, just strong, tasty. Like there's a couple honey beers I like. It has a nice little sweet punch to it. But if I could have that, and that took me to another plane, I'm okay with that.
All right, very good. Well, let's I guess we can draw now.
Yeah.
Actually, let me pause it real quick because I forgot my drawing stuff. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. I forgot my drawing stuff because I'm in the new office, so I forgot it all upstairs.
Swanky setup.
Yeah. Now I can draw facing the computer. All right. So what are we drawing today? Just
your idea of someone, anything taking part in this type of potion or a food, taking part in this ritual.
Okay. Someone. Okay, gotcha. All right, you ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go.
What will they draw? We wonder. Will it be a house, a cat, or thunder? Oh no, the pictures suck, oh dear. But we cheer them on, my friends. Let's hear. Josh is sketching something round. The same lines are all over town. Crayons flying, colors burst, but their art is the worst.
All right.
Oh man.
I like mine. Yeah, I think you're first because you're left.
All right. Let's see. How do I make myself bigger? This one? There we go. Okay. Here we go for mine. Let's see.
Oh, right. There we go. Yeah.
It's a elephant drinking his little cocktail of high juice.
That's a good one. Mine's kind of similar in a way.
Okay, all right. Let's
Yeah, I
put
like
you
his
over
little
there.
straw. It looks like he's drinking a nice cocktail.
Yeah.
All right.
Even though they don't really need straws because they have their trunks.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's redundant.
yeah.
I don't know why. How do you do this?
Push the.
Here.
There you go.
All right. So here's my. It was supposed to be a
What?
frog,
Ah,
and he's drinking out of a chalice or a holy grail.
okay. I didn't know
and
what that was.
I forgot to how to draw a frog for a second. At the last second, I drew his hind legs. I was like, oh, that's how you draw.
It's a monkey frog.
Yeah.
I
not
like
the
his
best.
tripped out eyes. That's good.
Yeah, yeah. I guess halfway through the episode, I thought about our drawings, and I was like, yeah, what are the people like? They take some of the frog venom from the Amazon and like the poison, and they'll trip on that, or that's like a joke in some shows or like that.
Yeah, some frogs you can lick or something, and they'll get you high or something like that. The poison dart frogs that'll kill you, so you don't want to.
Oh, okay, so don't do those.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend licking any kind of frog. That's probably not the best for you.
No.
But, I did have frogs as a kid. I instead of fish, I had frogs. So
Did you lick
are
those?
fun. I did not lick those, no, because you could get like salmonella and stuff. So you want to wash your hands thoroughly. That's not. Plus, you're not really supposed to pick them up that much because they don't mess their skin up.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So that wasn't the reason why you've achieved third eye status.
No, not from the frogs. Maybe it's the ants. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Well, cool. That's this week's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, like Josh said earlier, just follow us on all our socials. You can send us an email at heyguys@telltaleguys.com. Just send us story ideas. That'd be great. Comment, do all that, and like us. Anything else, Josh?
Yeah, tell us what religion you would start if you got high or had your followers get high or whatever. Not that we condone getting high because that's illegal in most places,
Yes.
But if theoretically you did, what would be your religion? What would it be called?
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, peace out. Toke up.
Yeah. Or don't, because that's illegal.
Don't.
Drugs are bad. Okay.
Yep.
Bye.
Walk you through the trees all day.